Thursday night football, I was all fired up. Cowboys, Lions, playoff hopes on the line, must-win game for both teams. Steve, I got to say it, and I thought the game was trash. And it's 44-30, 74 points. I thought it was trash. I thought the effort by the Cowboys was one of the most suspect things I've ever seen, particularly George Pickens. But if you watch both sides of the ball, the Dallas Cowboys, I've never seen defensive backs and linebackers and defensive ends fall down so easily. If Jahmyr Gibbs made the hint of a move, Cowboys just fell down like dominoes all around the place. I thought it was a trash game. I thought the officiating was trash. It was disappointing. And then, obviously, I'm most disappointed with the Cowboys. They're fraudulent. They're not a real threat. Their defense is absolute trash. And then the best part of the game, actually, and I'm going to give Richard Sherman the first say here before I even get to you, was I thought Richard Sherman's post-game comments where he called out George Pickens. And we can talk about the game, but we can also talk about I got to say it, and I'm not a fan. Richard Sherman's a hell of a broadcaster, and I love the Amazon show. Anyway, here's Richard Sherman trashing George Pickens.
George Pickens throughout the game, especially late in the game, just looked uninterested in playing football. And that's what you can't have. If you're going to be a superstar, if you want to be the best receiver in the National Football League, you can never be disengaged. It doesn't matter if the game's going your way or not going your way. You can't just disappear in these games or else you're not going to have impact. And just right here, cruising routes. You're the guy. You're the guy. CD Lamb is not in this game. He's out, and you get intercepted on your slant routes, and you can't be the guy and half-ass it. I'm sorry, that's just, you can't, it's unacceptable. And if you're the Dallas Cowboys and you're looking at him and you're looking to pay him big-time receiver money, $40 million, you got to look at this tape and say, hey, is this a guy we can trust paying $40 million to show up regardless of circumstance? I don't know.
Let's be clear here. The Lions and the Cowboys play every Thanksgiving. I mentioned that point to say they had a full week to prepare for this game. This isn't, hey, we just played on Sunday and now we're playing on Thursday. The last time they played was on Thursday of Thanksgiving. The effort from the Cowboys, particularly George Pickens, was embarrassing. Your thoughts on last night's game?
A couple things. First of all, as a peanut Snoopy connoisseur, your hat. Good grief. All right, now to the game. I like scoring. I like high scores. I like shootouts. I actually thought it was an entertaining game. But to your point, yeah, Everson Walls, Mel Renfro, and Kevin Smith, certainly not Darren Woodson. They ain't walking through that door. And we thought that there was an improvement in the Dallas defense that ended up being a mirage on the road. Detroit more or less looked like the last 2 years. Goff got rid of the ball early. But, Jason, as it relates to George Pickens, this is going to be the conflict within the confines of the front office of the Dallas Cowboys. Pickens is a roller coaster. There's ups and there's downs. He's been spectacular for much of this year. In fact, you could say at times he's been the clear number one above CD Lamb, but this goes all the way back to his days at the University of Georgia. There's going to be issues where, as you like to say, he goes back to factory settings. So he's going to have moments like this more than once throughout the year. So that now the question becomes, okay, are we paying for the 12 to 13 games a year where he's spectacular and sensational? And how do we then buttress that against the other 3-4 times a year when it's that?
Listen, you can't invest in that. And anybody that was like blaming Mike Tomlin, blaming the Pittsburghs for walking away from George Pickens. Well, how you like me now? I think Pittsburgh looks justified. I don't know what the issues are. I hate to speculate, but these guys are always talking about their mental health. They're always, the guy this isn't a mental diagnosis. It's an adjective. He looks bipolar on the football field. You just never know what you're going to get. You go into a Thursday night showcase game with massive playoff implications, and this guy no-shows you. And so either maybe it's performance pressure, the lights are too bright, and he can't handle it. But I'm not building anything around someone that is that unreliable and would no-show that game. Part two, and because I find this fascinating. I think Richard Sherman is a hell of a broadcaster, and I said this last week, or I said it the week before. The Amazon crew is the best in football right now, and to me, they're the closest thing to inside the NBA. It's funny. A lot of the conversation is authentic, and it's not what you would get from other networks. They got the cool guy in Tony Gonzalez. They got the outspoken guy in Richard Sherman. They got the funny guy in Ryan Fitzpatrick. They got the meat and potatoes guy in Andrew Whitworth. And they got some of the best eye candy in sports television history, who actually does a great job of facilitating the conversation. She does both jobs well, in Carissa Thompson. Anyway, your thoughts?
Yeah, I like the fact Richard Sherman. There's one thing, there's always like this athletic code that, hey, we play, so we got to be a little easier on the athletes. I like the fact that Richard Sherman, and if you were to compare this to inside the NBA, there's no doubt he's Charles Barkley. He is the guy that's going to go out there, and if there's a bus to be thrown under, he will throw you under the bus, and he will back it up time and time and time again. I actually turned off the game as soon as it was over. I missed all of that, and I caught it later on Twitter. I'm thinking, wow. You really think about it, Jason, how many other commentators, whether at the studio desk or calling the game from the booth, would have enough guts just to make an observation like that? Because there were times, Jason, in that game, they panned over to George Pickens on the bench, and you're right, he looked checked out. Like he was there, but he wasn't there. And I'm thinking, can someone tell him to snap out of it? This is kind of a playoff game for the Cowboys, but this is what my theory on a lot of athletes that get into the media space is that they do not understand at a certain point, this is not a popularity contest. And there's going to come a point in time where you're going to say something that everyone's going to hear, and then someone from that athlete is going to relay that message. Can you handle the heat of someone either confronting you online or saying, hey, I didn't like what you said, or even probably worse, ruining a relationship? Long ago, Charles Barkley realized one thing, especially as he got older. I have nothing in common with these guys. In fact, I don't even like the new guys. And guess what, Jason? It's his greatest weapon.
I can't believe that I'm sitting here championing Richard Sherman. The guy's never liked me. He's one of these Northern California names. He's from South Central, but he went to Stanford, I think, and believes he probably got 1,200 SAT and thinks he's a genius or whatever. But I got to give him credit. The guy's a hell of a broadcaster, and I had very low expectations. I got it. Nice job, Richard Sherman. I'm not pandering. I don't want you to like me. I don't care if we see each other. I know you probably think it's on site, but, whatever. Final thought here. We'll circle it back to football. Are the Cowboys done?
Well, maybe not mathematically, but all of the improvement we thought that they were making, it was a mirage. It was like that thirsty man in the desert that thought he saw an oasis, and it turned out to be a leaky faucet. And there's an alarming thing. We knew the Cowboys' defense was going to struggle. You know where they really lost the game? To me, it was the special teams. Every time they had a chance to get back to momentum, they kicked the ball off. Yes. And we're seeing white Mel Gray. Every time that Kennedy would bring the ball back to midfield, and guys, you already have a bad defense. The defense does not get any better when the ball starts at midfield. Now, overall, I got to give Jerry Jones still a little credit. I like the future of this team overall. They still got to help the defensive side of the ball. But going into the offseason, if it's an honest front office, even with the production, they got to have meetings saying, okay, guys, if we're going to pay George Pickens, how much? How much? Because say what you want about George Pickens, though, Jason. For much of this season, he has been spectacular at times. He's actually opened my eyes a little bit.
I agree. There's something in that locker room and in that performance that I see throughout professional sports. Steve, I'm fearless, and the show's fearless, so I'm just going. There's something, and this isn't for today, but I'm just going to whet people's appetite. There's something going on with black athletes, man. They don't love these games. They don't. It's the money that, because you brought up the whole special teams deal, and that was part of the big problem. This special team, no one wanted to hit anybody on the kickoff team. No one wanted to hit anybody on kickoff coverage, and it changed field position throughout that entire game. And that it's those details. And when I see Cowboys just falling all over, I just saw a half-hearted effort, and it's the kind of thing. Again, I need to end this because there's other things I want to talk about. So I'm not asking you to respond to this, but it's no different than LeBron James last night. Because Luka Doncic wasn't there, he actually played hard and cared. But when Luka is there, his play is inconsistent. This whole professional sports have totally turned into what can you do for me and how much money I can make. No one, or virtually no one, seems to be playing for the love of the game, and you can see it, and that's what I didn't like last night. From George Pickens to the people on the Cowboys defense to the lack of special teams effort, no one cared. That's a problem for professional sports, and it seems to be an acute problem for, I'm just sorry, for black athletes. So go whine someplace else. It's a fact, and at some point I'll unpack that into more details.